Today, which is Sunday, as I look over the planetary dance, we'll call it, for what's about to transpire this week. Today, the moon is in Libra. So I think one of the epitomal factors that needs to be considered almost in any of the weeks that we look at is community. The moon is in Libra, as I said. And so the other has a relevance in what it is that is up for consideration. This week is brought to you by the Sun and Mercury predominantly, but, you know, it would be rather foolish to not include the lunar aspect of what it is that is transpiring. After all, this week is going to include a new moon. And in any equation that includes the sun, which is just about like always, after all, it is the kind of like the a focal point in any community consideration. And to try to contain or curtail the consideration of community to just sections of humanity that exist here on the planet, it just doesn't do justice to the fact that, from an astrologer's point of view, the planetary surround that is going on in any moment is community as well. And as I bring up factors of the conversations that are transpiring in this celestial community, each of us has to make the determination as to, you know, is my focus broad enough to be inclusive of a community or communal perspective? Or am I, wrapped up in my own little cocoon world to such an extent that I'm not recognizing that it is the community and what it is that we engage with and open up with each other that actually sets or keeps in motion the evolutionary unfolding of what it is that we as soul beings came here on this planet Earth at this time to develop. Okay, let's take a look at the chart. I know I've already bumped it ahead to Monday, even though it's Sunday when I'm looking at this. Right off the bat, we can see that the sun, which I mentioned a little bit about last week, has moved into this great dynamic triangle here in the middle, a trine, if you will, with Jupiter and Saturn. And as this planetary dance has been unfolding over the last little while, that trine aspect has been repeatedly being emphasized. This time, it's the sun moving into that third or more transient position to expand upon what it is that our water capacities are trying to tune into at this time in an effective enough way that we can see the potential for, you know, feeling and sensing into each other's capacities to to really be in tune with one another. That is essentially what water is about. It's being having the wherewithal to recognize that we are not alone and that those capacities of sense are attempting to get our attention in different ways to what is transpiring on a larger level than just myself. Now, the sun has a very dynamic masculine quality to it. It's in Scorpio, which is it's a feminine sign. It takes the process of making sure that um, we don't go overboard with the that driving kind of masculine conquering energy in what it is that is taking place all the time. I think of the I Ching symbol or the symbol of the Tao, which is that circle, half white, half black. But each part of that, the white being, the light, it has a certain masculine quality about it, a radiating experience of the solar presence, and the dark side, the lunar side, that receptive feminine quality of being able to actually reach out and engage with another at a level of sensation. But in each of those halves, there's a dot or a circle of the dark and the light in the dark as a reminder that to try to engage or expound upon total light masculinity or total lunar darkness really doesn't provide the total picture. Those small parts of the dark and the light and the light and the dark, they are relevant. The recognition of the vitality allowed to be an expression when we engage with each other in and with the recognition of the requirement of both the light and the dark, both that strong driving kind of energy and the receptive kind of energy. They're interacting with each other all the time, and that is what is required. This is Monday, and that is the main focus, is that Sun, Jupiter, Saturn, grand water trine, making sure that we are tuned into the uh, vibrational connective tissue of what it is that we come to share with one another. Tuesday, you can kind of see if let's just go back a day. Mercury here, oh yeah, still in retrograde, moving back toward Scorpio. Whoops, wrong way. When we get to Tuesday, we've got a little less than a half a degree for Mercury to enter into Scorpio. And when we go to Wednesday, a mercurial day, by the way, Mercury has gone back into Scorpio, and I'm just going to move this ahead an hour at a time because here on the West Coast, the new moon is going to transpire very late in the day, 11 o'clock or so in the evening on this day. And these charts are set for 8 o'clock in the morning. So uh, watch, watch this area of the chart as we go ahead an hour at a time. You will see the planet slowly, very slowly, except for the moon, of course. Moon likes to jump ahead so friggin' fast. 3 in the afternoon, 5 in the evening, 7 in the evening. You can kind of see that moon slipping up there. Notice Mercury has already reached into the 28th degree with the sun. 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Oh, the moon has caught up with the sun, Mercury at the same degree, 28 degrees of Scorpio. It is as with any new moon, time to, you know, tune into, you know, really reach into that soul aspect of who you are and say, what is it that this next lunar cycle, which begins very late on this West Coast time frame here on Wednesday, further east you go, the later in the day it actually becomes Thursday for most of the people on the East Coast. What is it that my intention needs to engage with? Now, you might recall, if you will, we're still in a Mercury retrograde cycle. And, you know, from the shotgun perspective of what a Mercury retrograde stands for, you know, often resembles a lack in the clarity of our thinking processes. And yeah, simultaneously, the words that we might try to expound as our thought processes and our tongue, you know, tune into music that's hopefully similar so that there's a cogent quality of something that's transpiring in both places simultaneously. This is different though. Mercury is known as Cazimi when it's in the heart of the sun. It's there in that same degree with the sun. And this is Mercury retrograde, which means that it is sitting now between the sun and the earth. It's passing between both of these. And if we look to see what the declination is, north and south, we can see that the sun is at 19 degrees south latitude. Mercury's at 19 degrees south latitude, which means that they are traveling, the Mercury is going to be traveling across the center of the sun's radiance. And just for a little extra giggles, on this very same day, the moon goes out of bounds. And so we need to make sure that we're taking into consideration all those factors as we set our intention. You've got a pool of energy. There's a nice water sign consideration. Scorpio. It's right near the end of Scorpio. So the process of um, unraveling the mysteries of life, making sure that our grasp of anything that might, you know, veer over a line into what we might call secret is in the mix. And it's Scorpio. That potential and intense interplay that is transpiring as we engage with one another is not a minor consideration. And these are the things to mull around with as you make that determination. What is it that I want to facilitate during this next month that is going to come out of this deep scorpionic perspective, where not only the sun and the moon are together, as with any new moon, but Mercury is emphasis, Cazimi, the sun. And when a planet is Cazimi, the sun, it is given extra, extra advantages, extra focus, extra importance in what it stands for. So our thinking, our words are being, offered a tailwind that doesn't easily or necessarily fall along the same lines as that mercurial retrograde motion often brings up. There is an enhancement of those mental processes that is at work, that is there for us to tap into as we set that intention for what it is that this next month might unfold for us at a human physical level as well as at our soul internal. Another aspect. Sometimes I will pull up my Mystic Shaman Oracle deck, pull a card to see if there's a possibility that something within the framework of what it is that we're considering might be assisted in a divinatory fashion by tuning into what that particular card is. So as I began this reading, after shuffling the deck, this is the card that showed up. Arrow. And I think arrow, my inclination is something being brought to point? We're in the very last degrees of Scorpio. How effectively has this Scorpio season been for you? Have you been willing to be honest with yourself and others in what it is that has come up for your communal shared perspective? Remember, community. That's one of those terms that I see overtly significant as we're going on the longer journey of what it is that we are being invited to grow into in this life dance. In the book, reading about this particular arrow symbol, It reads, receiving this symbol reminds you that when you are in alignment with your heart and soul, you are on target and will soon be hitting your mark. Be true to your calling. Release attachments and free yourself from the bondage of unbridled ambition. What might it be? I'm not reading at the moment, but what might it be that ambition has drawn you into that may or may not be the best path forward for clarity? Now, I'm reading again, now is revealed to be a moment of contact in which your intention meets the material world. Oh, there's that word, intention. And here we are doing what? Setting our intention for this next lunar cycle. Back to our reading. The arrow also symbolizes the need to set your creativity free. Just some extra things to throw into the pot while you're making an effective intrusion into what is it that I intend to accomplish. Remember, there is a tailwind right now. This is Wednesday for us here on the far west coast, Thursday for you on the east coast, to recognize potential knocking at your door to accomplish something that might possibly expand your awareness of what community means to you and what it can mean as we willingly not only engage with one another, but tune into this celestial level of community that is saying there are some energies currently afoot that it would be helpful to be aware of, which is one of the reasons for tuning into this astrological aspect of the life dance. We are never really doing it alone. And there's a whole host of celestial, heavenly, and spiritual characters that are wanting to tune in with you in this adventure. You know, can you feel when that term adventure, what the arrow said? Allow your creativity to be free. Something is transpiring that is attempting to wake us up to things that we perhaps have not been awakened to before. And this is an excellent time. I'm bouncing the chart ahead an hour at a time. So we're now in Thursday, a Jupiter day. And you might notice Mercury retrograde is heading back to be a part of this grand water trine as well. The moon has already leaped ahead, as it does so rapidly, into the sign of Sagittarius, setting a heaven, if you will, for the fact that on Friday, late, the sun will also be shifting. See, here we are, Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning, 29 and a little bit more than a half a degree left, I mean, of Scorpio, which means that we have a little less than a half a degree to go. So you figured the sun moves a degree a day. We've got less than a half a degree to go, so that from 8 o'clock, so around 8 o'clock, maybe 7 o'clock in the evening on this Friday, the sun is going to change hats. I want you to, on this Friday, take a moment, breathe into the experience of this shift of the sun from the deep, possibly sometimes turbulent scorpionic waters that are all about the mysteries and secretiveness and, you know, interpersonal connections that we have with one another. Steps into Sagittarius, which is like, someone just turned on the light. Masculine sign. And Sagittarius, you know, that grand water trine. Jupiter, there in Cancer, is in a sign where it is exalted. That means it's got a tailwind. And it's Jupiter. Yeah, it's going retrograde. But it's in this grand water trine. It's exalted in its sign where it's being given that tailwind kind of energy. It's in this grand trine which says there are factors that are working right now that want to work together. Sense into that, We're now going into that first day of this next lunar cycle. You still have time to set your intention. That energy is still available. Maybe not quite as much of a tailwind as it had right at that particular new moon that transpired on Wednesday, Thursday of this week. But the Sagittarian tailwind brings in the potential advent of an energy that is, like a shooting star going for more, traveling through the universe on a path that is out there. From a Sagittarian perspective, the quest is always to wake up to what more is there. The sun entering into this realm of Sagittarius says, are there experiences of learning that maybe I didn't grasp as much as I thought I had? Because I'm sensing there's something else that wants to put in an appearance that is like a next step in an ongoing journey. That's another Sagittarian thing. Journeys far afield, whether they're physically traveling to other portions of the planet or whether mentally striking out, seeking insight into factors that are just waiting to be opened up, peered into, investigated, and recognized as a potential next step in the process of becoming the bigness of who we are. Not just a simple material being caught in a material realm of drudgery and, you know, so called predictability, the adventure. Remember the creativity that was being invited into this lunar cycle right there from the perspective of that arrow? It's, you know, are you ready to hit your mark? Are you ready to set your creativity free? Do you recognize in the symbol of the arrow that Sagittarian element beckoning your participation in something that you likely haven't participated in to this point? So the invitation this brings as we go toward the weekend is wake up, take a chance, experiment, experiment, experiment. If this path doesn't seem to, float my boat, maybe I need to be on a different boat. The moon, remember, went out of bounds as it became in tune with that sun and Mercury there at the end of Scorpio. Wildness. Can you feel that potentially tapping on your shoulder? Unpredictability. Oh, speaking of unpredictability, I'm going to go back to that. This, I'm not going to do the hourly because that's a little too much missing around. On this new moon happening at 28 degrees of Scorpio, one other factor, to enhance that lunar unpredictability and wildness is that this is almost in exact opposition to Uranus in retrograde, which has just gone back into Taurus. If you're sensing that the ground might be, moving underneath you, that could be that Uranus factor because Uranus is about shaking things up. It has a certain earthquake like quality to it, and for a reason. And this opposition at this new moon, you can take it a couple of different ways. One is, I feel destabilized. This Uranian factor down there in an Earth sign, it's making me feel discomfort with what it is and where I'm standing. But why is it doing that? Because Uranus is Prometheus, the great awakener. And as such, you know, if you can find some way to discover stability in this shaking experience, it's going to appear more readily when you recognize and take the opportunity to wake up. There's something going on that, is the reason why your foundations feel discomforted? Is it that you're not on an appropriate path? Uranus, in this opposition to the new moon, is saying, wake up, prepare. We're just about to go into Sagittarius. There is more than you realize that you already know, but have been trained away from understanding as a part of your soul essence. Wake up to that. I almost forgot. I'm glad I remembered to come back because that is a vital part of this particular new moon that's coming. So as we go through the weekend, we get up Saturday morning. It's like, oh, is the sun going to come up? Sagittarius, I can kind of feel that potential solar quality there that is, saying that, yeah, it's overcast and it's raining outside. I live in the Northwest. This is what it does at this time of the year. But from a solar perspective, even in that overcast, rainy thing, that sun is above those clouds. I have the capacity to feel its presence and live from that solar awareness. And remember the I Ching symbol. There is still a portion of that solar awareness that requires the lunar darker side of the equation. And I don't want to ever forget that because the potency of that, you know, connective and enhanced capacity of feeling that the dark side of the equation, the lunar side of the equation, always beckons participation at a much more profound level than just skirting across the solar surface. I, as the moon, I affect the tides of the earth. You can kind of see it in the in and out tide of the ocean things, but there are also tides within us that are at work. As we go through life, we feel, we can feel an upsurge of an inward tide moving within us. And at the same time, we might feel the receding outward flow of energy at times when it's good to rest. Both are required in this life dance. And the moon stays out of bounds all the way through the weekend because I can see it's still up here in this Capricorn dance. And it's not till it gets over here to Aquarius that it's going to come back in bounds. As a matter of fact, it comes back in bounds on Monday, 24th. That's all the astrology and philosophizing that I can come up with for your considerations, and welcome to the new moon this week, and welcome to the Sagittarian dance that is going to offer us opportunity, if we're willing to take it, to be more than we thought we could be. So I'm going to shut down the recording. If anybody has any questions, tap me on the shoulder. I might be able to point you in a direction you never thought was something to consider. Ciao.